want to say Happy Mother's Day to each and every one of y'all. And Marie, I think you got the biggest surprise of all, didn't you, today? What a present. What a great present. God bless you. You know, Jesus put a lot of emphasis on mothers. While he was dying on the cross in the most excruciating way that anybody could imagine, he thought to take care of his mama. He did. It said now in John 19, we're going to be looking at Proverbs 31 in a few minutes, but in John 19 verse 25 it said, "Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Cleopas, and Mary Magdalene." There were three Marys standing there at that cross. How about that? And when Jesus saw his mother and the disciples standing by, the Apostle John, whom he loved, he said unto his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, that disciple took her unto his own home. Let me tell you something. Moms are important. There ain't nothing like mama. I don't care if you're 2 years old or if you're 82 years old. There ain't nothing like mama. There were some famous mamas in the Bible that did such an outstanding job that they literally changed the course of history or fulfilled it, whichever way you may wish to look at it. There is one that very few people have ever heard her name in the Old Testament, but her name was Jochebed. She was the mother of Aaron, Miriam, and as we all know, Moses. If there was ever a mom whose life would have made a great screenplay for the Lifetime Network for women, the movie, it would have been Jochebed. You just have to give it to her and the midwives for their civil disobedience against Pharaoh. He had heard that a deliverer was coming, and the Jews were starting to outnumber the Egyptians in the country and starting to prosper. And so he told the midwives, "Kill the babies when the moms have them." Well, the midwives feared God more than they do Pharaoh. So they told Pharaoh, "Well, we couldn't get to them because the women delivered them themselves. They are so strong." And so they got out of doing that. But when Moses was born, his mama was afraid for his life because Pharaoh had ordered that all of the little boys be killed. And so they put him in a little basket and they insulated it from water, and they put a cover on it, and they sent him down the river in hopes that somebody would find him and take care of him because his mom was in fear of his life. And lo and behold, guess who found him? Pharaoh's daughter. She found that baby and she come home and said, "I found this in the river, can I keep him?" And believe it or not, Pharaoh said, "Why sure, find a woman to nurse him." And they went and looked and found Jochebed to nurse him. And so she took care of her own son and got paid for it. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And she raised him in the Jewish laws of God and raised him to be a godly young man. And here he was enjoying the lavish luxuries of the enemy's house while he was being raised by his Jewish mama, who told him what the truth was. Don't ever tell me that God does not have a sense of humor. He'll take care of you if he has to do it with the enemy. Praise God for mamas like that. Then there was another one, Hannah. Some of you know who she is, but she had suffered the anguish of infertility, and if you understand what that meant to a Jewish mother back then, we had a lot of Jewish mother jokes. Lenny gave me a whole sheet of them because he's a Jew and he can get away with doing that. Man walked up to Jewish mother on the street one time and said, "Lady, I haven't had anything to eat for 3 days." She said, "Force yourself." The rest of y'all will get that. How many Jewish mothers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather sit in the dark and suffer. A Jewish mother is a special thing. They are so attached to their children, almost above anything you've ever seen. And they're very strong women. Well, here Hannah had, and to have a child was considered the blessing of the Lord, and she was in such anguish because she was not able to have a child. And so she was in the temple praying so fervently that the priest got after her for showing up drunk. That's true. Read it. It's in there. He thought she got drunk and came to the temple. Mamas, have you ever prayed so hard that people thought you were drinking? Getting quiet up in here, ain't it? Making everybody kind of awkward when I say something like that. Well, don't come to church drunk and pray. Please don't do that. We've seen everything in here, including that, but let's not do that, okay? If you need to pray, pray in the Spirit and not in the distilled spirits. But she suffered the anguish of it and over prayed for a child, and God finally granted and gave her a son, a very special son, the mighty prophet Samuel. And because of God's graciousness, because of that, you know what she did? She gave him right back to God. She said, "I'm going to dedicate this child to the temple and to serving God all the days of his life." And as soon, literally, as he was weaned and old enough to do anything, she brought him back to the temple and gave him to Eli the priest, and he became the great prophet Samuel. Oh, that moms would dedicate their children to the Lord now. There is nothing more important, Mama. There is nothing more important than giving your children to God and safeguarding them until they can reach an age to where they can make that decision. And 9 times out of 10, they'll decide for Jesus if you raise them to know Jesus. If you don't raise your children to know Jesus, the world is going to get a hold of them and ruin them. It is so important. Almost nobody hardly understands how important a mama is. Then I think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. What a privilege. What an honor to raise the Son of God, literally God the Son. Can you imagine? She probably never had to get after him because he was perfect. Whew. I ain't going to go there. Only child that probably never had to be corrected ever. And believe it or not, yes, Candy had to be corrected a couple of times when she was coming up. Now on a little more recent basis, I think about moms we got today. I think about my mother. Early on, my mother raised me to believe what is written in here. And when I went off to school and got my education and even got a doctorate in theology, I had to go back and I said, "Mama, everything that you taught me was exactly right." She said, "Well, I had a good Sunday school teacher." And it took me all that education to find out my mother had a level of education on that. She could have taught a doctoral class. Taught me to believe the Bible and to trust Jesus at an early age, and she lived it in front of me. My mother was a woman of great integrity, and she lived what she preached, and she was very, very faithful. One of the last things she told me before she died is, "Son, please take care of the church." She had a love for everyone here as well, but she was one awesome mama. She used to teach me a little joke about math, and I've told it many times, but this really tells it like the way a mama is. She said that teacher asked a little boy in the classroom one time and said, "If your mama had 6 oranges and she divided it between you and her, how many would you get? And he said, Mama would get 2 and I would get 4. And the teacher said, you don't know your math. And the kid said, no, you don't know my mama. That's the way a mother is. They're sacrificial, and my mother sacrificed so very much for my sister and I. Then I think about my wife back here. I don't know if any of y'all know this or not, but she still worries over her children like they're little bitty kids. She can't rest until she knows that everything is all right with all the kids. She will stop everything she's doing to come to the rescue of one of the kids when they say, Mama, I need you. We got a call from Anna one morning. Mama, I need you over here. When she says that, you better go code 3 because that's bad. She don't very often do something like that. I've never seen Donna get dressed so fast in my life. I was trying to run behind her, tell her, hang on, I'm coming too. Donna would give up her last dime for one of the kids if they needed it. And loves babysitting the grandchildren. Bless her heart. I did it for 2 hours one evening, and I felt like I'd been wrung out like a dish rag. Donna's got so much patience that Job would have given up under some of the things that she's dealt with. Not only has she been patient with her children, but she's been patient with me, and I'm worse than all 5 of my kids put together. I can't believe I said that. I watched her one time during a terrible rainstorm at the house. The yard filled up with water, and under our porch were 4 kittens. And the mama cat showed up on the porch crying through the door at Donna in a panic that her kittens were drowning. Donna got out there on her knees in that pouring rain and helped that mama cat. The mama cat got 2 of the kittens, and she got the other 2, and she took them to safety. From one mama cat to the other.
That's right.
I love watching that. That was something. Then I look at Anna over here. Those growths that she has on each hip are actually children. I look at her and I wonder, where does the energy come from? It's hard to remember that I once had energy like that too. I watched her interest change and her world change when the babies were born. And I watched them how that everything is mama, mama, mama all the time. I tell you something, that don't change at all. I would give anything if I could go see mine today and pick up the phone and call mine. I talk to her every day. My oldest daughter, Cookie, I watched her really, really struggle to stay afloat and to do things that were so creative and brilliant to help her children make it in life. But moms, they can figure it out one way or the other. The great King Solomon asked this question. And this comes from a man who had seen it all and had literally done it all. He tried everything that the world had ever had to offer, and I've done a message on that before. He was the wealthiest man that has ever lived. Matter of fact, even by today's standard, he could buy and sell Bill Gates. There's nobody on this planet ever had the riches and the power that King Solomon had. But yet, through all of that, he asked this question: who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? Verse number 10. Ladies, let me tell you this. When you stand before God one day, it will not matter how much money you made. It will not matter how much education you had or the things that you owned and all that, but it will be how you raised your children. And what you did with Jesus Christ. A virtuous woman, a woman with morals, a woman with integrity is worth all the gold in the world. I thank God that I have godly women in my family. I thank God for that. There is nothing greater than a godly woman. I latched on to that one 30-some years ago, and I will never let her go. There ain't nothing that could ever drag me away from that, because once you find a godly woman, young men, you better hang on for dear life, and don't you ever turn her loose. That's right. There is nothing like a godly woman. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. He knows that this virtuous woman is going to take care of the household. He knows that this virtuous woman is going to take care of him and the children. And he can lay his head down at night, not wondering where she might be, what she might be doing, because he knows that all is well, because there's a godly woman in that house. I might get to preaching if this keeps up. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. A godly mama, you can always count on a godly mama to come through and to do good. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. My mother always told me that she better not ever hear somebody tell her that she did not work. Although she was a stay-at-home mom, as soon as my sister and I came along, she quit her public job and went back to a house and worked harder than she ever had in any office. If you don't think that a woman works, that has children and a family, maybe you ought to go and watch her and see how she spends her day sometimes. The money that they are worth, I think they said they should earn, if it was minimum wage, about $140,000 a year. I'd love to find them. I'd love to find them. She is like the merchant ship, she bringeth her food from afar. A mama will provide things for her children at greater cost than she will for her own self. A mama will do without in order to take care of her children. A godly mama will. And it says that she gets her stuff from way away, no matter what the cost, because she wants the very best for her children. Would you give your children poison because it was cheaper at the store? I don't think you would. Then you need to provide your children with the very best, and I'm not talking about money, but I'm talking about get your kids in the house of God on Sunday morning. Bring them in and let them learn all about the precepts of the Lord. That's more than any gold. That's the best spiritual food you can give them. And don't take them to a liberal church that's going to tell you lies and sugarcoat everything and just want to get your money. Take your children and provide them with a good Bible teaching, a good Bible education. She riseth while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her house, and a portion to her maidens. A mama's lamp never goes out. They have to hop up in the middle of the night to take care of their children. I remember I was, close to 20 years old, and I come wandering in the house about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was Mama sitting up in the living room in her rocking chair. I knew there was a problem when I saw in the rocking chair. And I said, Mama, what in the world are you doing up? She said, I'm waiting on you. And I said, I'm a grown man. Go to bed. I regretted saying that for the rest of my life. She said, you don't understand. Wait till you have children. And I said, when I have children, I'll never do that. I had to apologize to her long before she died and tell her she was right, and she said, I told you so. Mothers love to do that, don't they? I told you so. Moms don't have a schedule. They have to follow their family and the children and take care of them. She considereth the field and buyeth it, and with the fruit of her hands she planteth the vineyard. A godly mama is careful with the expenses in the home. And she's always doing everything she can to take care of them. A mother can stretch a buck better than that Christian Children's Fund. Remember that old day, for $1.50 a month you can feed a family of 5 and give them all a college education. I used to see that on there all the time. I wondered, how do you do that for $1.50 a month? Well, my mother showed me. She could stretch a dollar better than anybody I'd ever seen. She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. A godly mama is a strong mama. Men, let's just be honest. When a woman is in labor, she has just a little idea of how we feel with a cold, doesn't she? Yeah. When we get sick, when we men get sick, we fall apart. We go to the bed. We don't want nobody to come in there and speak to us, have nothing to do with us, and all over a head cold. And then you got mama up trudging through the house with 103 temperature, dead on her feet and smiling and taking care of the kids and cooking food and doing all that. Because you know what? They don't have that luxury. And a woman literally is stronger than a man in those areas. I will admit to that, because if I was to say anything else, I'd be lying. They're strong. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good, and her candle goeth not out by night. My wife, even now, with all of the children grown, I can have the TV on in the bedroom in the middle of the night, blasting, and I'm sound asleep. She'll be sound asleep. Any kind of noise, and nothing phases her, but you let her hear the voice of one of the children in the house or one of them, she can recognize the ring on the telephone. How in the world she knows that? Up she goes. Andy's the only one still at home. She knows as soon as he comes through the front door. I ought not tell this on TV, but I sleep so solid that somebody could come in the house and take my bed and put it on a truck and haul it away, and I wouldn't hear you. But a mother hears every little sound that pertains to the children. Anything. I've seen them call at night that there was something going on, and she immediately springs up in the bed, hello, and she's just as coherent, and I'm still going, Thank God that she's there. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She provides, she works hard and makes things. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reaches forth her hand to the needy. I remember when I was a kid, there were people back then called hobos. Anybody know what a hobo is? We lived in Monroe where the train station was, and hobos would get off that freight train or whatever, and they'd be going up through the neighborhood, and they looked so pitiful, and they looked so hungry. And if my mother ever saw one of them coming through the backyard or coming up the street, she would stop them and fix a bag of sandwiches and give it to them. I watched her do that all the time, and that always gave me a heart for the needy. Your kids are watching what you do, and they will imitate what you do. If you're selfish, your children will be selfish. If you're generous, your children will be generous. If you're godly, your children will follow in those footsteps. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. When we first got married, and for years after that, whenever a thunderstorm would come up or an ice storm would come up, Donna would fill all the bathtubs up full of water. And I'd go, what in the world are you doing? She said, if the power goes off, we won't be able to flush the commode. That's practical, ain't it? Yeah, I said commode from the pulpit. How about that? And, you know, I used to laugh at her. I said, that's ridiculous, until one night the power went out, and I was so glad that them tubs were full of water. always prepared. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. A lot of people don't understand what that means. What that means is her husband is a leader of the town. If he is known in the gates, if he sits in the gate, he's one of the leading citizens of the town. And the reason her husband has been elevated to that position is because he has a godly wife. I would not dare attempt what I have been able to do in the ministry all these years if she had not been by my side. She helps me. She has never hindered me at all in the ministry, and she's always helped open doors. Everybody loves Donna. I remember I was going, yeah, they do. I was walking down through the mall one day, and there come this preacher that could not stand me. Him and his assistant, neither one, they couldn't stand me. And they go up, oh, Sister Donna, and they gave her a big hug, and then looked at me and went, and kept walking. That's the truth. They all love Donna. She made that possible. Let's go to verse 25. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Mamas, please listen to this. I know that you don't hear a thank you as often as you ought to. I know that. I know that. And a lot of times you seemingly that you're taken for granted. But you hang in there. And you keep the faith, and you do what you're supposed to, and you will be honored in time. You will rejoice in time. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. And here's payday. Right here, here's payday. Her children rise up and call her blessed. There ain't nothing better than to hear one of your children say those things about you. It's better than all the promotions and the gold and stuff you could possibly get to have your children rise up and call you blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but you excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. Boy, beauty don't last very long, does it? That old outward beauty. Pretty soon you got to get a facelift if you want to keep up with the young people. I got one and I found the same one underneath. But you know what? The older mamas get, the more beautiful they really are. Never mind that, I'm going to tell you something. She earned every gray hair that she's got in her head. She earned that. Oh my goodness. What she... That's right.